7th graders, it's Mrs. Trombley. It's time for lesson 3-2, all about slope. Maybe you've heard of ski slopes, especially this time of year, but there's actually a slope in math as well. What is it, you ask? It's a measure of how steep a line is. So you're going to be seeing a lot of lines in math class this year and next year. It's called a linear relationship. We'll get to that more in chapter 10. But basically, the reason we're talking about slope now is because slope is a ratio. Yep, it's a rate of change. It's a ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change, also known as the change in y over the change in x. So hopefully you're seeing the connection to this, to lesson 3.1, when we talked about rates. And we talked about how a rate is, especially a unit rate, is the change in y divided by the change in x. Slope is the change in y divided by the change in x, also known as rise over run, also known as up over over. With slope, when you're trying to figure out the measurement of the steepness of the line, it does matter which is first, because you can see that these are all written as fractions, right? Fractions are division problems, and with division, the order that you divide does matter. So it does need to be rise over run. It can't be run over rise. So basically, all you're going to do to find the slope is tell me from point to point how far up and over you go to get from one point to the next. It's kind of like giving me directions from one point to the next. So take a look. Here's our first graph. Highlighted 2 points for you. We have 0, 0, and we have 3, 4. And this is the x-axis. This is the y-axis. You're just going to tell me the ratio of rise to run on this. So it's change in y over change in x. All right, and looking at this graph, and this is very, very similar to the last problems that we did in our last lesson 3.1. If I'm starting here, I want to know how far up do I need to go to get to this point. So to get to this point, and this is vertical, so straight line moving up, how far up do I need to move so that I'm across from this point? So my vertical change, my change in y, if I start here, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. You have to go up 4. In order to get from this point to this point horizontally, or x-axis, right? The x-axis is the horizontal axis. We'd have to go 1, 2, 3. And believe it or not, that's the answer to the first one. It's just 4/3. I know that we could change it to 1 1/3, but I want this to be a ratio. It's the ratio of the change in y to the change in x. And yes, we do have to simplify ratios, but we want to leave them as a comparison of two numbers because that's what they are. So we can leave it just as 4/3. And just to get you to kind of connect it to what we did before, these are my y values in the ordered pair, right? So before on a graph I said 0 plus what would be 4, and that's our 4. And for the x values, I said 0 plus what would be 3, and it's 3. So it's really the same thing as before, except instead of doing that subtraction problem, we're just kind of counting lines to get from one to the next. All right, let's try another one. All right, I have -2, -1, and I have 4, 2. So in order to tell me the slope of this line, you have to tell me the change in y divided by the change in x. And again, y is the vertical axis, x is the horizontal axis. So if it's change in y, you need to tell me how far up I need to go first. So to get across from this point, we need to go up 1, 2, 3. In order to figure out my change in x, I need to know how far over do I have to go to get from this point to this point. And we have to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this one's a little bit different than the other because there is a number that divides into both 3 and 6. It's 3. So I do want you to simplify fractions. We're going to divide both by 3. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. So the slope is actually 1/2. What this means is to get from one point to the next, we go up 1 and right 2. Up 1 over 2. So it tells me up and over, up and over. And as you can see, when you go up 1, right 2, you're still a point on that line. So this one kind of tells me a faster way to get from one point to the next on this line. This line is not just made up of 2 points. Lines are made up of an infinite number of points. That's how you get the line. So now you can't see all the tiny little dots, but they're there. Honest. All right, take a look at the next one. I'm going from 0, 0 to 5, 2. I want to know my change in y over my change in x. Again, horizontal axis is x. Vertical is the y. So to get from here to here, the vertical change first, it looks like we have to go up 2. So the change in y equals 2. Then my horizontal change to get from here to here would be, start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So change in x is 5. There's not a number other than 1 that goes into 2 and 5, so 2/5 is it. This means up to right 5. Up to right 5, up to right 5. We could keep going and going forever. If you go up to right 5, you'll end up on the line every time. All right, and again, you could look at it as, okay, my change in y, I'm going from 0 to 2, so that's a change at 2. For my x's, I'm going from 0 to 5, so that's a change in 5. Same concept here. All right, last one of these. Here's my x-axis, here's my y. I want my change in y over my change in x. To get from this point to this point, I'm always starting with the lower one for now. Eventually, you'll see you don't have to, but that will happen in Chapter 10. Now it's just an intro. So from here to here, I'd have to go up 1, 2, 3. And we'd have to go over 1. And for now, I'm okay with you leaving it like that. I know you can say equals 3. For now, I think it's going to be easier for you to look at slope as a ratio comparison of two numbers. We need the two numbers because this tells me how far up, this tells me how far over. If you just put the 3, at first you might confuse it with just thinking it's just, you just keep going straight up. But 3 over 1, it is a slope of 3. For now, leave it like that, and we'll cover the whole number ones in Chapter 10. All right, hopefully so far so good. Turn your page. What I want you to be able to do now is to plot a few ordered pairs for me and then tell me the slope of the line. So that's what the directions say. They say graph the line that passes through the points, then find the slope of the line. And the purpose for this is to kind of help you out. A real common error, you're used to plotting points, and when you have an ordered pair, it's not yx, it's xy. I know that slope is the change in y over the change in x, but ordered pairs are opposite in that sense. So this will kind of help you as you're doing them both at the same time not to confuse them. All right, so step 1, we're going to plot those 2 points and draw a line through them. So if you don't have a ruler, press pause and grab one. All right, welcome back. Okay, so let's plot these ordered pairs. And again, remember, this is x, this is y, all right? So the first one, -3, 3. This first number means -3 on my x-axis, so left 3. And the second 3 means up 3 on my y. Again, different than slope. The second ordered pair, 4, 5, go back to the origin, means right 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 2 points. That is enough to make a line. We're going to connect those with a ruler or any straight edge thing that you have at home. I think school IDs work really well too. And I'd like your line to extend all the way through the graph. Don't give me a teeny tiny line segment. Draw me a nice solid line that goes all the way through. I put arrows on either side too to represent it moving forever and ever in both directions, because lines go on forever and ever, just like me every day in class. I know, I'm so sorry. All right, so now that we've made this line, now it's our job to find the slope, okay? And instead of writing the word slope, I'm actually going to kind of get you ready for algebra a little bit. Slope is referred to as m. So it's a shortcut. It's kind of like the Golden Arches. I don't know. You can go skiing down it. Slope is m. So instead of writing that word slope, I just wrote the letter m. That means slope. Okay. So slope is a change in y over the change in x. So now I know we just plotted xy, but for our slope, you have to tell me vertical change first. So to get across from this point, we would need to go up 2. That's my numerator because that's the change in y, the rise, the up. I have to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can't have 7 over 2. The slope is 2 sevenths because slope is rise over run. So that means to get from one point to the next, we have to rise 2 and run 7. All right, let's try another one. We're going to plot 6, 4 first. So again, I have my x-axis and my y, and in my ordered pairs, it's x, y, x, y. All right, so 6, 4 means 6 to the right on my x-axis and 4 up on my y-axis. And -4, -1 means, back to the origin, means 4 left on my x-axis, 1 down on the y. So again, ordered pairs go x, y, not y, x. draw your line through those points all the way through the graph with some arrows on there. And now we're going to figure out what the slope of this line is. So I'm going to say m equals. Okay, now instead of xy, you have to tell me rise over run. So to get from one point to the next, the vertical change, the change in y, is up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to go up 5. And the horizontal change is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5/10. Now maybe you're thinking, hey, that can be simplified. I hope you are. It doesn't simplify to 2. It's not 10 divided by 5. It's 5/10. So 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 10 twice, and we have a slope of 1/2. Now I know that, yes, you go up 5, right 10 to get from point to point, but what you actually can do is, I'm going to use a different color for a second here. You could actually, this means up and over, right? If you go, start at this point, and you go up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, up 1, right 2, the whole time, up 1, right 2 is actually a shorter way to get from the whole number point to the whole number point on each line. So it's still the same slope as you simplify it. Okay, next one. I have 0, -4, 2, 4. So your first task, I need you to plot those points. I'm going to need to fold my paper in half so I have enough room here. Don't mind me. All right, so let's plot 0, -4. Remember, this is x, this is y, and ordered pairs are x, y, x, y. So 0, -4 means 0 on the x-axis and 4 down on the y. And 2, 4, back to the origin, means right 2, up 4. We're going to connect those. Connect the dots. And we have our nice little line that extends all the way through the graph. That's what I like, with my little arrows on there. And now we want the slope, the m. All right, so to get from here to here, we're going to do vertical change first, because we have to. It's rise over run. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We go up 8. And then we have to go right 2. All right, so I know that 8 divided by 2 is 4. Yes, but if you want to give me a ratio of rise over run, we should put the 1. Oh, that kind of rhymes, doesn't it? I'm a poet and I didn't know it. So for now, we're going to leave it as 4 over 1. When we cover more of this in Chapter 10, we're going to learn how to leave it as a whole number, and we'll remember that 4 means 4 over 1. Now it's just a stepping stone to it. All right, last one of these, and then, yes, there is more. I know, it's crazy. It's only been 13 minutes. It's okay. All right, let's plot this. Here's my x. Here's my y. Maybe you want to hit pause and try this one on your own. That would be a great plan. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you have plotted left 3 down 2 for your first ordered pair, and right 3 up 2 for your second ordered pair, because it is xy, not yx. And we have drawn our line that extends all the way through. And now to give our slope, or our m, I'm going to say m equals. All right, to get across from this point, it looks like I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. And to get from here to here, we have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 4, 6 is not in simplest form, and it needs to be in simplest form. So 2 goes into both of those. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 6 3 times. And what that actually means is, if I start here, I can actually go up 2, right 3, up 2, right 3, and still end up being a point on that line. So 2/3 just tells me a quicker way to get from one point to the next. All right, turn to the last page of our slope notes. The application. I know, the fun stuff. The real life, not just random points on a graph, but actually something that has meaning behind it. I know, it's nice. I'm sure that's what you're thinking. Anywho. All right, slope application. The slope of a line is a ratio, but slopes are often given as a rate, especially if you actually put something for something else and put some units on there. So there are 2 tables on your paper. You can see them. You can't see them yet on the screen, but they are on your paper in front of you. Table A shows your earnings for babysitting, and Table B shows your friends' earnings. We shouldn't compare ourselves to others, but for this one, it's just made up information, just for fun. All right, what I'd like us to do first, number 1, I want you to graph your data and draw a line through the points. So let's start with that. Here is you, table A, and this is your earnings for babysitting. So for hours, we have 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Earnings, we have 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I want us to graph those ordered pairs. So hopefully you're remembering that, okay, this is X, this is Y, so that means that these are like little ordered pairs. X, Y, and this one would be 2, 10, and this one would be 4, 20, and 6, 30. So tables just give us ordered pairs on a graph because they're all connected. I know, I think that's pretty super cool. I don't know if you do. Probably not. You're probably rolling your eyes at me right now. I can't see it, so it's okay. I'll pretend you're smiling happily. Tell us more, Mrs. Trombley. All right, so anyhow, table A, this is you. So it's already numbered for you. Hours, when hours are 0, your earnings are 0. So I'm going to plot 0, 0 there. Again, this is X, this is Y. The next point that we have is after 2 hours, it's $10. So I'm going to go over to 2 hours and up to $10, because that's counting by 10. And then after 4 hours, it's $20. I'm going to go over to 4 hours, up to $20. 6 hours, $30. So over 6, up to 30. And then 8 hours, $40. And 10 hours, $50. Okay, and then we're going to connect the dots. And I'm going to connect them and make a nice line that extends all the way through and put an arrow. Because the more you work, the more you make. All right, so we just finished that. Okay, number 2 says to choose any 2 points to find the slope of the line. Remember that slope is the change in y over the change in x. So if you're looking at your line, the slope equals, all right, the change in y asks me how far up. Now this time, when you go up, I know it looks like we're going up 1, but the number scale is counting by 10. So you're actually going up 10, and then right 2 to get from one point to the next. So it's 10 over 2. That would be the slope of this line, which we would actually say 5 over 1. All right, so we found the slope of that line. Number 3 asks, what does that slope represent? So let's put some meaning behind it. This 5 is our change in y, right? And our change in y, the y-axis is money. This number down here represents our change in x, and the change in x-axis is hours. So if we're trying to figure out what this means $5 per 1 hour. We just found a unit rate. So it means $5 per hour. All right, so that's how much you're making. Okay, number 4 says, use the same grid and a different color to graph your friend's data. So hopefully you have a different color of something, or maybe you can make a darker line or a lighter line or a dashed line, something to distinguish between you and your friend. We're going to graph our friend's data. So here's our friend and their earnings. All right, we're going to plot the points on here. So ignore your other line and we'll plot a new line on here. So your friend, when they work 0 hours, they don't make any money either. So 0, 0 is the starting point. When your friend works 2 hours, they get $14. So I'm going to go over 2, and I know I don't see 14 on here, but here's 10, here's 20. Halfway would be 15, so I'm going to draw a line just underneath to make my dot. Next, after 4 hours, they make $28. So I'm going to go over 4, and again, here's 20, here's 30. 25 would be halfway through, 28 would be just below that 30 mark. After 6 hours, they make $42, so I'm going to go over to 6 hours, and up here's 40, here's 45, 42, just a little above that 40 mark. After 8 hours, they'll make 56, so here's 50, here's 55, 56, right about there. And after 10 hours, they make $70. All right, now go ahead, and they might not be perfect, but it should make a straight line. So line it up between your 0, 0 and your 10, 70. And go all the way through. You don't have to do it each individual point. Connect the first one and the last one, because these points should lie in a straight line. So here's your friend. Okay? Number 5 says, choose any 2 points and find the slope of the line. So with this, we're supposed to find the slope of the line, and you can choose any 2 points, right? So with this one, I'd actually like to choose the first and the last point, because those are ones that ended up right on the little box there. Right on the line where they cross. So for this one, all right, and here's what I'm talking about. I want to go from here to here. I'd have to go up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 to get across from there. So my rise would be 70, change in y. For my change in x, and this is counting by ones, we'd go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that can be simplified, right? 10 goes into 77 times, 10 goes into 10 once, and we end up with 7 over 1. Now if you look at the next question, it's the same. It says, what does the slope represent? Well, my change in y is money, and my change in x is hours. So that means that my friend makes $7 per hour. Number 7 says, compare the steepnesses of the lines. What does steepness mean in terms of these problems? All right, so here's your line. Your line on here is the one in pink. And here's your friend's line. That one's in blue. You make less per hour, right? Your friend makes more. Whose line is steeper? Your friend's line, right? So basically what I want you to get out of this is that the steeper the slope, the higher the slope, the steeper the line. All right? So the steeper the line, the higher the slope, and vice versa. So whoever's line is steeper, that's the person that's going to make the most money. We're finally done. See you next time.